Welcome back, everybody, to the show. I hope you're doing absolutely wonderful. What a show I have for you today. RFK Jr.'s FDA is covering up and suppressing studies that our taxpayer dollars funded that revealed, maybe RFK Jr. was wrong all along. And the large effort to portray COVID vaccines, measles vaccines, etc. as unsafe was a lie, even by a study done under RFK Jr.'s watch. And so they said, that contradicts our conclusion. Let's not release it. But I think there's going to be a Streisand effect and more people will talk about it. Pretty insane. The California gubernatorial debate went completely off the rails, and the Republican candidates for governor at this debate had a brutal series of events. There you got Mehdi Hassan just eating alive Michael Knowles in a debate, edited Trump interviews, and more. Let's just get right into this. You know, if you just listen to the words that HHS Secretary RFK Jr. says, you would believe that his mission at this highly important health institution is to ground the operations in science. Conclusions about medicine shouldn't be driven by, the experts want this, but should be driven by facts, empiricism, and through that process, we will learn some difficult truths. Of course, Bobby built his career on being anti-vax and has pushed a lot of ideas about the lack of safety around vaccines despite it not being substantiated by science, and then came into this job. One of the first big things, aside from Trump shouting, "Don't take Tylenol," one of the big advocacies from him was around vaccines. And he launched investigation, or there were studies done by the FDA into the safety and efficacy of the COVID vaccines and of measles vaccines shingles vaccines. And look at what happened. And it's brutal. Republicans against Trump always chooses a very specific photo of RFK Jr. to use. The FDA has blocked publication of research that found widely used COVID-19 and shingles vaccines were safe. This is from the New York Times. So I started the segment the way that I did because you would think that he just wants to follow the evidence by what he says. We know that's not true based on his track record, but what he says is we're going to get away from popular narratives and just focus on the facts. But now the facts under his institution led to a conclusion about the safety of vaccines with COVID-19 and shingles, once again reaffirming that, and he's hiding that information the best that he can. Look at this.
This is a move that breaks decades of precedent. The Trump administration blocking the publication of research that tracked the safety of vaccines. An official from the Department of Health and Human Services tells ABC News that the FDA did not publish several studies that showed the COVID and shingles vaccines were safe because, quote, the authors drew broad conclusions that were not supported by the underlying data. According to the New York Times, these studies that were funded by millions of taxpayer dollars analyzed millions of patient records and found serious side effects from the shots were rare. The CDC says on its own website that the shingles vaccine is safe and effective. Recent studies have also showed benefits from the shot, like potentially lowering the risk of dementia. COVID vaccines are some of the most studied vaccines in history, and large clinical studies show the health benefits do far exceed potential risks. But Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's a longtime vaccine skeptic, has limited Americans' access to preventative shots. Under his watch, the government has slashed funding for vaccine research and tried to reduce the immunization schedule for kids. One former CDC official tells us this censorship of taxpayer-funded science is extremely concerning.
It's extremely concerning, as is this B-roll shot that they chose to use of RFK Jr. Who do you trust? You trust the doctors and the scientists, or this guy?
I used to snort cocaine off of toilet seats.
Or this guy. Always this photo.
I started doing heroin when I went to the top of my class.
So literally, he tries to perpetuate narratives that it's always the FDA suppressing the real studies about the risks or about autism. And that was what I was referencing before about one of the first big items that he went after was we need to investigate if vaccines are linked to autism, which has been investigated over and over and over and has demonstrated that they're not. But In reality, it is him. He is the deep state corrupt actor that's keeping things secret from you because it contradicts the narrative. And then they go, we decided that the methodology was not good enough, and that they drew conclusions they shouldn't have. Really? Millions of dollars, all of this effort to study this, because probably, I don't know when these studies were started, but likely they were hoping what would come out of it is bombshells about the lack of safety, because that's what they were getting in there to expose. And instead it demonstrates the terrible experts were correct, which we've known. Plenty of studies have been done. But that is what it demonstrates. So now they're hiding it. One of the really sad parts, this is the New York Times piece, FDA blocked publication of research finding COVID and shingles vaccines were safe. One of the disturbing parts of the takeaway from the COVID-19 pandemic is that so many people, not even just extreme anti-vaxxers or right-wingers, just sort of middle-of-the-road people think that the takeaway was that the vaccines weren't effective. Like, that's tons of, yes, you got your Rogans, but beyond that, I can't remember who I was listening to. I was just recently listening to a podcast, and someone so casually went, yeah, and obviously we learned that like the COVID-19 vaccines ended up being really dangerous and stuff. And that just is a prevailing wisdom in a lot of spaces when it could not be further from the truth. The one thing that broke everybody was with the initial version of COVID, there was a reduction in the spread with that first vaccine. As it started mutating, it still was really effective as they adjusted the vaccines, was really effective at preventing people from getting seriously sick, but then wasn't reducing transmission as much. That's still an extremely effective vaccine to prevent people from being hospitalized, which it was doing. But people started saying that, see, they lied about the vaccine stopping COVID, or it was going to prevent transmission forever. And like just totally rewrite history. It's bizarre. Were there huge mistakes made by our leadership, like, Trump and others and experts during this time? Yes. Of course, an unprecedented event is going to lead to some failures in leadership. But should our takeaway be, this is why we can't ever trust expert consensuses about the safety of different treatments? Absolutely not. And that's the huge takeaway from a lot of people. Another person I just listened to is Tucker Carlson, who's obviously extreme and on the right. Doesn't fall into that other group I was referencing. But he goes, in one of his recent podcasts, he's like, we learned that the COVID-19 vaccine didn't work at all and that it killed a bunch of people. And like everyone knows that. They admitted it. It's true. That's what he said. It's not true. But he says it with such certainty that unless you're real entrenched in this stuff, you'd go, oh, really? I guess that's what they admitted. But under RFK Jr.'s HHS, there's a study going on, multiple studies, and it demonstrates that he was wrong and those experts he railed against were correct. Dr. Fauci was correct. And then they tried to hide that info. To give you more clarity on this, literally there are lots of Republicans dead right now because of people like RFK Jr. There's a bunch of Republicans dead right now because of MAGA influencers. Specifically, the researchers say, this is reporting from NPR, their adjusted analysis found that the excess death rate among Republican voters was 43% higher than the excess death rate among Democratic voters after vaccine eligibility was opened. So then I can visualize it for you. Look at this. Before the vaccine was available, and this is notable because it's not just, it could have been a different thing. Maybe Democrats live in areas that weren't as affected. No. For a while, Democrats were suffering before the vaccine worse than Republicans. Then it kind of synced as you entered into right before the vaccine rolled out. And then once the vaccine was rolled out, Republicans' death rate spiked compared to Democrats. Why? Because Democrats were more likely to get the vaccine because they were listening to the Faucis, who has been so demonized, over the Rogans or the Tuckers or the Trumps kind of, or the RFK Jrs. Look at this. You could assume that if Republicans were getting the vaccine at the same rate as Democrats, their line right here would be much closer to the Democratic line, which means thousands of people would be alive right now. Is that disturbing? This isn't just a news story. It's not just a headline. Oh, RFK Jr. is embarrassed. His own organization proved him wrong. That's an element of it. But Wiping this smile off his face, that's an element of it. Nice to see. With a clearly 2 used Zen pack. Like, that has been in his mouth for too long. That nicotine pouch. Replace it, brother. But the bigger story is that this is real. The consequences when he starts limiting the advocacy for vaccines or them being recommended, which is what he's doing. When he starts putting out a lot of disinformation, you can see it in literally the death numbers. Like how many people died by party pre and post vaccine. This is real people's lives because of some weird attachment to a non-scientifically backed ideology. And I can't get my head around it. You would think that once it's his organization, like he's the boss, then he could trust the work that's done under him. And even then he can't. And the solution is just to keep it hidden from public view. That is really shocking and really, really disturbing. Before getting into our next story, let me just say yesterday there was a request for emoticons. All right, you wanted emojis, and so Jaden rolled them out, and it caused a little bit of tension within the office because Cole doesn't like his emoji. And so that means you have to use it as much as possible. If you remember, Jared Frank said clean, beautiful, and then just the emoji of Cole. MZ Williamson said, hey crew, hubby and I love y'all. Howdy from Midland. Howdy back. Digital, and hello to your hubby. Digital design and innovation member for 9 months said the scientific method, do the study, interpret results, and then throw the study in the shredder if it doesn't align with your agenda. Shake my head. Yeah. He's such a fraud. It's annoying. I've said this many times before, but it's annoying too because we really do need to get the country healthier. And there are some things that RFK Jr. advocates that are fine. He'll talk about eating real food. He'll say, don't rely so much on ultra processed food. Get out and be fit. And that make America healthy again energy could be directed toward productive goals, but instead this obsession, this ideological fixation on being opposed to some of the things we do correctly medically. We do plenty of things wrong. We have too many health problems. Our health system's all messed up, but they're attacking some of the things that we do correctly that has helped limit child mortality, for example, extend lifespans. That's what they're attacking. It's totally backwards. And then, as you said, it's so absurd to pretend as if it makes any sense within that scientific method context to see a result you don't like and then literally suppress it. Delete, delete, delete. And then they're wasting our money. The whole point that we spent taxpayer dollars on these studies was so that we could get the results, and now we don't get the results. I mean, they leaked, so we know now, but it's really gross. All right, y'all ready for this? This one's going to be fun. Let's do it. Last night was the California gubernatorial debate, the governor's primary debate. And the way that California does its primaries makes for a really extra interesting battle at these debates. Because, normally the primary is Democrats have a primary and pick their candidate, Republicans have a primary and pick their candidate. In California, all of the different candidates are in one primary, and then just the top 2 of any party go to the general election. So it could be 2 Democrats compete in the general election after being selected in the primary, or 2 Republicans, or 1 of each. And so you have Republicans on this stage and Democrats. Makes it very interesting. And this guy, okay, right here, who we're going to start with, just had a humiliating moment. Chad Bianco, okay? That's Sheriff Chad Bianco. And he's one of the Republican candidates for governor. Lord help us. I don't think he'll become governor, but that would be something else. And he was asked about something he said about the other Republican candidate, Steve Hilton. And it was so brutal. Watch this, Caitlin Collins.
Bianco, on this issue of leadership, I saw the 2 of you chatting earlier, you and Mr. Hilton. You've actually had some harsh words for your fellow Republican on the stage tonight. You've called him, quote, unethical and dishonest, and said that he is trying to, quote, manipulate Californians and, quote, swindled his way into the Republican side. Are you saying that you don't think Republican voters can trust Mr. Hilton?
I will tell you, I don't know where that came from. I wouldn't tell you in my entire life.
Is everyone just pulling a Tucker now? Who was the other person we just covered who said, oh, I don't remember saying that? There was someone else recently that did a similar, Lindsey Graham was like, I've never been an advocate for taking Carg Island. And then we played the clip and he's like, take Carg Island. And then now this guy, Chad, says, I don't remember ever using that word. Okay, watch this exchange, experience the secondhand embarrassment, and then we'll fact check him.
I will tell you, I don't know where that came from. I wouldn't tell you in my entire life. I don't think I've used the word swindle. So I don't know if you were quoting something or if you were saying that, if you were saying that.
It's a quote from you to The Atlantic.
No, I've never used the word swindle. Have Steve and I disagreed? Absolutely we have. Have we had our quite big disagreements and battles in this election because he's running his campaign, I'm running mine.
But you're denying that you said these quotes.
No, I'm saying that I don't know where that came from. I would never use the word swindled. But the context, yes, I have said that. It's unethical that I'm the only person up here that their entire existence in their job revolves around honesty, integrity, and leadership. I'm the only one. Right now, lying can get me removed from my job.
Can I just clarify?
Unlike what they're saying.
With you, because this says it's from an interview with KBAK that happened in April of this year, where you said he's trying to figure out how he can manipulate Californians to put him in this position in a time when we know that California Democrats have failed and we are going to vote for a Republican governor, and he has swindled his way into the Republican side, even though he's not.
I probably did say that. I didn't use the word swindled, whatever it was. But that context, I will agree with that 100%. So I do believe that.
Okay, so you did say the quote.
Sure.
Sure. Chad, that was not very Chad of you, Chad. Okay? That was brutal. Why is he taking such issue with the word swindle? Is that particularly mean, swindle? So all he knows is that while maybe he said something similar to that, he didn't say swindler, swindle. He knows that word's never left his mouth. It just hasn't. Chad Bianco knows that he has never said, what is this?
And we are going to vote for a Republican governor, and he has swindled his way into the Republican side, even though he's not. And
why is this happening multiple times in 1 week to different right-wing figures? Tucker Carlson, no, I never said, could Trump be the Antichrist? And then he cut to the clip, could Trump be the Antichrist? No, those words never left my lips. And then here, Chad. And also, it takes some, I don't know, a negative form of balls to say I've never used that word before. Because if someone's reading a quote to you, what do you think? She made it up? Like she wrote just a non-existent quote? So I get maybe he doesn't remember every single thing he said to the press, but to see a news anchor reading a quote and then to have the gall to say, I never said that, even though that's not even an offensive thing to say. I don't know why he got fixated on it. And then you have this moment from the debate.
Killed somebody. He should go to jail. He should be prosecuted.
It's too late, don't you think? How about the 3 DUIs before that?
Finish?
No.
Or do you want to be the bully that you always are?
No,
You know, you're an oath keeper. We all know that.
And I'm very proud of it.
That's that right-wing militia that was at January 6th.
And I'm very proud of it.
You should.
I'm very proud of it. And guess what? You're going to swear an oath, and you swore an oath. You should know what you were swearing and be proud of defending it.
I don't think an oath keeper is qualified to be governor.
I don't think you know what an oath keeper
is. Let me answer the question. I said.
So that was when the oath keeper issue was brought up. And then later, Caitlin Collins is like, can we circle back? Did you admit that you're a part of this right-wing militia?
Sheriff Bianco, just to follow up on what you were just saying there, and you said you're a proud oath keeper. Are you referring to the group?
I've sworn an oath 3 times to defend my Constitution.
An oath
yes, and everybody that wants to, lie and emotionally get all spun up about the Oath Keeper organization, I just would, before you do that, and I know none of you have, I want you to go read the mission statement of the Oath Keeper mission statement and the ACLU.
I saw them on CNN attacking the Capitol.
And the ACLU. I saw a politician molesting kids. Does that mean you molest kids?
What?
Exactly. Don't pull those stupid statements out and expect to not be called out.
But Sheriff Bianco,
I'm confused. What on earth is happening? And also, this is what confuses me constantly about watching really a lot of politicians, which is, how is this the best? How is this? There's only a few people on this stage. How are these the best options? Chad was thinking to himself, I should be governor, and has the ego to say, I could be the governor of the largest state in the country and the fourth largest economy in the world. Eat your heart out, Florida, to use a Newsom quote. And then you clearly don't even know how to talk compellingly. It's very bizarre. I'm just a random 23-year-old political commentator who started posting videos on YouTube. And whenever I am in a debate context, it sounds like I'm speaking from more authority than someone who's running for governor of California. He's like, well, you're getting, and also, and you said, you probably haven't said, and you're getting all spun up and emotional and oath, and I swore an oath, and I would check why don't they talk with any confidence or clarity? It's very confusing to me, because we all know our own public speaking ability, right? Maybe not. I think some people are deluded about their own charisma, because you should be able to say, maybe a job that requires me to speak confidently in front of people is not the job for me. But he's a sheriff where you do have to speak publicly. I don't know. Very insecure and unsteady in his delivery there. I never said that. Maybe I did. And then Caitlin Collins goes, so you're agreeing you did say this quote? And he's like, sure. Like when you're just trying to get out of an argument with a partner. Sure, I'm conceding. Sure. Then you get to this part.
They didn't.
Can I interject on this? Caitlin, can I go?
go ahead, Mr. Becerra, Secretary Becerra.
So I'm the only one who actually has experience taking on Trump in the way he's handling undocumented immigrants, because when he was president the first time, I was the attorney general, and we took him on straight on in court. We stopped him from trying to force local law enforcement to do the bidding of ICE. We were able to make sure we protected the DACA program for our dreamers all the way to the Supreme Court, and we beat Donald Trump. What we have to do is make sure that Trump cannot invade California, and you can't stop him if you've got a governor like Steve Hilton, who is his dad. Donald Trump's his daddy, and he will protect him all the way through.
So I like it. I like from former HHS Secretary Becerra there, you know, trying to get a daddy dig. We love our daddy digs, but I think we need to stop calling Trump daddy. I know that the Secretary General of NATO started saying that, then the White House started posting that out, and I get Becerra's point there, but did you hear he said, you can't do that if you're his dad. He's your daddy. Dang it, because you know he had that one ready. I liked the attempt. I liked it. Because it feels like you reduce the power of Steve Hilton by going, oh, Trump's your daddy. Like, you're beholden to him, little boy. But you can't do that if you're his dad. He's your daddy. I always think about that because, you know, beforehand during debate prep, they get one-liners that could be good sound bites. If I were ever in that setting, I would be so stressed that the thing that I practiced would come out wrong, because you want oh, this is my moment. But guess what? Trump's your daddy, right? Oh, and clip it, get it, post it, put it in a campaign ad. But then you're like, because you're his dad, he's your daddy. Shoot. Dang it, that was my moment. Just circle back later and get a crisper sound bite. Like I said earlier, Trump's your daddy. Did y'all get that, social media team? Good, okay. All right, and then you have two of the top Democratic candidates, Katie Porter and Tom Steyer, clashing.
No, I have said that billionaires like me should pay more taxes and the big corporations should pay more taxes.
Excuse me,
and
you
that's
literally
why,
said...
if this proposition is on the ballot in November, I'll vote for it. But going forward, we do need to go further. This is a one-time tax, and it also doesn't spread the money across the government the way everything else does, and specifically, it doesn't go to education and teachers and students, which is a critical need in the state of California. The tax I'm proposing to close a corporate real estate tax loophole is more money, and it's spread through.
I'm the only candidate
that's actually balanced two budgets.
Congressman.
I'm confused. Do you support the billionaire's tax that is going to be on the ballot in November, yes or no?
Katie, I just said I will vote for it if it's on the ballot in November. So what I've said is,
but you just said it wasn't a good idea.
Go far enough that, in fact, it is a one-time tax, and it also doesn't spread the money throughout the government. Look,
let me weigh in.
We have an education
I'm the only
system.
candidate that's
excuse me, was swallowing water right when that clip ended. So there we go. That's kind of the clash. I think Tom Steyer is saying, I have the best ideas. I could be the best governor. I'm even suggesting we go further than what my opponents are advocating for. Katie Porter's big attack line against Tom Steyer is this guy's a billionaire, because he is. And despite him advocating for more progressive causes as a billionaire, we don't want to trust a billionaire. And that's where in the next debate clip I'll show you, she gets asked about something that was in her latest campaign ad. But you'll see in this campaign ad what her argument is, which is, I am more in touch with the everyday experiences, unlike Tom Steyer, a billionaire. But at the end, she makes a reference to whenever she yelled at her staffer, and she kind of is like, hey, that was funny, right? And so I need to show this to you so you can have the context for then and the debate. She's asked, is it appropriate to make light of the shouting at your staffer?
I'm Katie Porter, and I'm not like most people who run for governor. I actually get what you're going through. A single mom of 3 kids, I know what it's like to push the shopping cart. My minivan has almost 200,000 miles. I have a grown kid who may soon be living on my couch. To give Californians what they need, it's going to take standing up to Donald Trump, calling out greedy corporations, and stepping on some toes along the way. Now, could you guys please get out of my shot?
This bill.
I'm Katie Porter.
Oops. So the reference is, there's that clip of her we play many times where she's filming something and one of her staffers steps behind her to be like, hey, wait, you said something wrong. Go back and say that differently. But she's just kind of standing behind, and then Katie's like, get out of my fucking shot. And that caused an issue for her, sort of a toxic workplace type vibe. Now, my point when we saw that clip was, you know what? I should probably pull up the clip, huh? Is that good? That's probably important. I should have had that ready. But my point was, I don't like bosses speaking to their subordinates that way. And the outrage from some seemed not to match the outrage they have for the many examples of Trump berating whoever the heck he wants. Feels like a double standard, and I condemn her treating a staffer that way. Get out of my shot. Let's see if we can watch this clip just one more time to have the proper context for this.
Lose more than 500,000 Californians dying prematurely to air pollution and other problems, and the state could lose. Get out of my fucking shot.
Jeez.
It's not that it's electric vehicles, it's that if we don't meet the commitments under the Paris Climate Accord.
Okay, it does. Okay, you also were in my shot before that.
So that was the clip, and then there's other reporting about sort of that type of aggressive behavior, which is bad. And if you know anything about most politicians, they just don't get caught on camera normally. That's how they speak to their staff. So we need a wholesale approach to stop being such abusive bosses across politicians. Trump, even Biden would chew out his staff members, and that was like a rite of passage if you got chewed out by Biden. And it's tough to watch that, right? But I somehow admire that it was put in the ad. A little bit. I think that's kind of funny. It's sort of like, did you take the proper accountability? Maybe, maybe not. Did I find the placement of that in an ad kind of funny? Yeah, I did. So then she was asked about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. It is my turn.
She's at the center of that ad.
Thank
you've
you.
put out an ad of your own, now making light of that interaction that you had with your
That's
staffer.
not correct, Caitlin.
Which you said you apologized for.
That is not correct. The ad is about showing Californians what they've had a chance to see on this stage tonight and in every other debate stage that we've had. which is that I'm able to take responsibility. I'm able to follow the rules. I'm able to say I'm sorry, and I'm able to do better. Everybody in California had a chance to see me on stage with that reporter in the last debate and see exactly how I conducted myself. Californians can decide for themselves about my temperament based on what they've seen here tonight. And if these boys bullying and bickering hasn't been enough to raise questions about their temperament, I would really challenge that. I have taken responsibility at this point hundreds of times, and that's appropriate because I made a bad decision and I treated someone badly. I apologized 5 years ago for it, and we worked together for 4 more years. What I haven't heard is the people on this stage who have made other bad decisions and other mistakes and other failures of leadership. Not one of them, not one of these men have said in this entire campaign, I've made a mistake.
Okay, so there it is. What do we think about that? I mean, sometimes people snap, don't they? I don't. I'm always very level-headed. Boss of the year. But people do. And I don't know if like her whole campaign needs to be defined by that one clip. Now, when you compound that with reporting about how she acts behind the scenes, it's kind of like, oh, I don't love knowing that. And then you compound that with that interview moment where she's like, stop, why? The whole interview kind of falls apart because she gets upset. It's like, it's not a good look. But can I be honest? I'm not trying to be this guy. But I think it gets extra attention because she's a woman. I do think she gets extra like toxic boss labels because of that component. And I don't throw that all around. Oh, everything's misogynistic. I don't do that. But I do notice that like video of Trump swearing wouldn't even be a news item. We just imagine that he's constantly cussing out all of his staffers. We know that. That happens. That's being reported. I'm sure we have video of it somewhere. And I do think there's a double standard there. So both I can go, oh, it makes me uncomfortable. And I'm not going to add extra outrage to it beyond what I think is equal. All about that. But another area of just being frank with you, watching this debate, I didn't feel very inspired. I didn't. In general, I was like, there could be better options that really compelled me. So that's that. And then you have this.
Enforcement based on the color of people's skins, the language they're speaking, it has terrorized a community. It's targeting the Latino community. It is disproportionately impacting our immigrant neighbors.
Congresswoman Porter, what's your view? What's your response?
Donald Trump sucks.
There it is. I think that's where we can wrap it up. All right, quickly, Haha David, member for 2 months, said, thank you for wading through the media muck and giving it to us straight with a shot of humor. Thank you all. Appreciate it. And then Josh Johnston said, emotional regulation is important in a leader. That's my point. I'm like, no, it's just not, I'm not feeling super compelled by this debate. Obviously, I hope one of the Democrats wins over the Republican, but like, wasn't exactly getting me ready to go phone bank or something. That would be my take on it. And it is important to have strong emotional regulation. Is that just a Katie Porter problem? No. So many of these leaders just don't have it. And especially behind the scenes, they let out all of their stress and rage at their staffers, which tells you something. That there's something deep there about me as someone who has staff. Like, I get stressed sometimes. And there can be this impulse to let it out on someone, because if it's someone else's fault, then it doesn't feel as difficult to work through. If it's just life can be stressful, that's a harder answer than it was Jaden's fault. And so as a leader, you have to know where to direct that stress or anger. And if it isn't the fault of someone, and then in every case it needs to be communicated in an appropriate way, that does tell you something about a leader, actually. But also people make mistakes, Bunny Galore said, women do get more scrutiny. Remember Kamala's laugh versus everything Trump did. Hillary versus Trump was also ridiculous. Yeah, so I'm trying to be cognizant of that because that's absolutely the case. A good example, too, is Kamala would deliver word salads from time to time. And the fact that that was a talking point, and there was more analysis of her botching answers and it sounding a little bit wandery than I ever saw for Trump's word salads that were like 500 times more incoherent, is an example of another double standard. And so it's difficult in my position to decide if you bring up something to me in a vacuum, I have a take. And then if you add the context of the double standards and the uneven playing field, I sometimes struggle to know how to adjust my analysis to take those things into consideration. So if you just show me Katie yelling at a staffer, I go, that's bad. And then if you remind me, hey, but are we ever talking about all these other people who do the same thing? I go, no, I guess not. So let me include that. Or if we're talking about Kamala Harris, here's one answer she gave. This was a bad answer. But is it incorrect of me to just say that without adding the context of, but her opponent at the time just today gave an answer 10 times worse? Balancing that is difficult in a world, especially when interacting with Republican voices, that has so much hypocrisy and no consistent standards. It's just like, I wish sometimes I could just interact with a story in a vacuum, but then I think people get slightly misinformed if you don't add the broader environment that thing is happening within. All right, this one's going to be really, really fun. Let's do it. Zateo's Mehdi Hasan had a debate with Michael Knowles, the Daily Wire host, and someone I've debated with now 2 times in those bar fight episodes. And listen, there were some moments when I debated him where I thought that I got a little, got a little body slam figuratively. But I only in my wildest dreams did I do to Michael what Mehdi Hasan was able to do to Michael Knowles. Oh my gosh. This was like 911, let's go, we got to report a murder, right? Figuratively. Or someone called So it was unbelievable. Let's start with this first clip. Michael Knowles, one thing that he does really well is he slips. Okay, you grab him and he slips out into a different talking point. And Mehdi just took control. He said, you are mine right in this moment. I tell you where we're going. Sorry to make this sound kind of psychosexual. But Mehdi did. He said, I'm your daddy. And he took control of the conversation, which is very difficult in debates, especially with Michael Knowles, who's a pro at getting out of an answer he doesn't want to answer. And 6 times asks Michael to denounce cop beaters on January 6th.
There is no precedent for January 6th. We were used to peaceful transfers of power. Richard Nixon agreed, even though he's probably robbed by JFK. Al Gore agreed, even though he's probably robbed by George W. Bush. Donald Trump actually lost, for sure, and he still didn't accept it and incited a riot. Michael says, Democrats thought it was the worst day in history. Do you know who said, bar none, it was the most horrifying day in American politics in my lifetime?
Mike Pence.
No.
I don't know. You
Guess
kept quoting
again.
him, so I assume.
Guess again. It was Ben Shapiro on January the 7th. He said it was the most horrifying day that I witnessed in American politics. A noted Democrat,
But
Ben
I
Shapiro
always
said
disagree with that guy.
on January the 7th. So let's just deal with some facts here. The people who attacked the Capitol were not going on private tours. They were not just a horn hat guy. It was people like Daniel Rodriguez, who assaulted Michael Fanone, put him in a stroke, got 12 years in prison. The judge said he was an army of hate and violence. Donald Trump pardoned him. It was people like Andrew Paul Johnson, who was just sentenced to life in prison for sexually abusing 2 children in Florida. Donald Trump pardoned him for January the 6th. He pardoned a neo-Nazi called Bradley Tyler Dykes, who did a Sikh Heil salute as he attacked police officers. These are the people Trump pardoned. Michael has never condemned Trump for that. Harry Sisson asked Michael on his show earlier this year, would you condemn Donald Trump for doing that? And he wouldn't answer the question. He said, I'll never condemn Donald Trump. Do you condemn Donald Trump for pardoning neo-Nazis, domestic abusers, pedophiles?
Well, hold on. Was he one
do you condemn Trump for pardoning?
I'm just asking a clarifying question about that guy. Was he one of the neo-Nazis who was getting $3 million from the SPLC, or was he a different neo-Nazi?
Nice diversion. I'm not Harry Sisson. I'll use up my time. Do you condemn Donald Trump for pardoning neo-Nazis, violent criminals, people who assaulted 140 police officers on January the 6th?
One last real clarification.
He won't answer.
One last real clarification.
I'll ask again.
No,
it's a simple question. Do you support pardoning the 600 people who were charged with assaulting police officers?
Pardon them for
like Daniel
pedophilia?
Rodriguez? He pardoned them for assaulting police.
Oh,
do you support that?
All right.
Okay.
Do you support that?
All right.
3 times. He hasn't answered.
Stick to the 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute.
Do you condemn Donald Trump for pardoning 600 people who assaulted police officers? 4th time. Can you do it?
I'm happy to. I condemn pedophilia,
do you condemn Donald Trump for pardoning January 6th rioters? He won't do it. He will not do it.
Wowza. Okay. You could tell Michael was nervous because normally Michael has for all of his dishonesty, he is pretty good in debate context of being like, oh, there's the B-roll. Hey, Michael. Oh, there's me. Okay. So anyways, he's good at going, well, here's what I will say. And then your brain, because you're used to talking to normal people, goes, okay, I'll listen. I'll hear you out. Then you blink and he's on like a completely different topic and he never answered your question or he never engaged with your point. This came up when I was pressing him on, is it appropriate for Trump to exchange AI chips that we were trying to keep from the UAE in exchange for, it appears, money being funneled to his World Liberty Financial. And Michael was like, well, you know, a lot of international business says a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, no, wait, specifically, do you think it's okay for presidents to be funneled money and then do favors for people who funnel the money? And he's like, the way that Mehdi was able to set up a very clear, concise question and then just repeat it, even if the moderator's trying to stop him, Michael's trying to stop him over and over again. And then, it makes me so mad watching Michael go, wait, so was that the one who was given money? And then, what was the other thing he said? I condemn pedophiles. And he kind of smiles. He thinks he's nailing it. But really, he's showing that he's principleless. Why are you so afraid to condemn? Like Mehdi went, show me something Obama did that Mehdi disagrees with, which is plenty, and he'll condemn it. And he'll condemn Obama for it. But these culty spokespeople who like can't get themselves to say, I condemn Trump pardoning cop beaters who later went on to abuse kids. And if you can't do that, I don't even know what you're doing any of this for. And then there's another clip from the same debate.
An admission he perhaps shouldn't have made there. Do you notice what he said about Maduro? He said, a lawless president, his words. Am I being dishonest? Is that what you said? A lawless president.
Not with reference to Trump.
But you said a lawless president would have just killed him. That's funny, because what did we do in Iran on day 1 of that war? We killed the leader of Iran. So by Michael's definition, Donald Trump is a lawless president. He went to war in Iran without congressional approval, without a UN Security Council resolution, as we've already discussed. He went to war in Venezuela without a congressional approval or a UN Security Council resolution. The idea that he did it because the guy's a drug trafficker is hilarious. I'm no defender of Maduro. Let's see what the court says. But he pardoned another Latin American head of government who was in American prison for cocaine trafficking into the US. He pardoned him. So real consistency there when it comes to drug trafficking. As for Nigeria, number one, it's not a genocide of Christians. The First Lady of Nigeria is a Christian. The Defense Minister is a Christian. Terrorist groups like ISIS in Nigeria and Boko Haram kill Muslims and Christians alike. It's a horrific violence, but it's not a Christian genocide. No one actually believes that. And even if it was, that's not the debate. The debate is, did he have the legal right to bomb Nigeria, or did he have to go to Congress, which he did not. He never goes to Congress.
So concisely going through a lot of things there. And it's interesting that Michael Knowles set up, I guess, to a different part that Trump was not a lawless president because a lawless president would have just killed Maduro. But then when we're talking about the legality or illegality of going to war with Iran, that would fit into the definition of a lawless president with how we started the war with Iran. But I'm curious what Michael would even say to any of that. Does it go to him at all? Not in that clip. That's just kind of Mehdi going off. But then, as we've reviewed over and over, this was about drug trafficking when all it was about oil. Obviously, with Venezuela, to be clear, is stunning that people still try to trot that out, given that just around the same time you had a drug trafficker, former head of state, as Mehdi referenced, being pardoned by Trump. And then we get to this clip.
He lied about the Pope on Monday and said he wants Iran to have nuclear weapons. Do you agree that's a lie? The Pope doesn't want Iran to have nuclear weapons.
I don't think that the Pope wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
So Trump lied?
I think that President Trump and the Pope are having a disagreement within the basis of...
Won't do it. This is what the definition of a cult is, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't think he's lying.
Ask me to criticize Barack Obama's lies. I will, happily.
I've just pointed out, but he's not lying because I think he believes it.
Okay, he doesn't believe it.
I think he does believe it.
The great Trump defense for 10 years. Since we're doing predictions, I already admitted my predictions are bad, but relevant to this conversation, you had a great prediction. Yeah. In the summer of 2024, you tweeted, there's no reason to believe, there's no evidence to suggest that Donald Trump won't accept the results of this election. The same can't be said about his opponents. That take aged like milk in a hot desert, as we saw on January 6th. The idea that, he left. Yeah, he left after exhausting every violent and non-violent option. There were guardrails. You think J.D. Vance is going to stand up to Donald Trump in 2028? You think the man who threw his own wife under the bus is going to stand up to Donald Trump in 2028? No, there are no guardrails this time. There's no Jim Mattis. There's no John Kelly. There's none of the people from the first time who were semi-adults in the room. There's Kash Patel, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and J.D. Vance. If that fills you with confidence, on January the 6th, 2029, go for it. Some of us will still be skeptical about a man who completely, utterly is obsessed with power, says, I have an Article 2 right to do whatever I want, reposts.
Yeah, and then that touches on a really scary phenomenon that we're all looking out for, which is we saw the damage Trump did when he had to leave power the first time, and that was with, as bad as we felt that administration was, that still was with some people who definitely respected the Constitution. Like, some of the people around Trump actually were just sort of career Republicans who didn't want to see the democracy thrown out for Trump. And even then we saw how chaotic and damaging and destructive it got. I don't know what Trump's plan is. I don't know if he's going to go, all right, once I'm done with this term, that's enough for me, I'm out, or try to hold on to power. But regardless, the reason why people go, this term feels more unhinged, it is. And the reason is because a president has a lot of power, but almost all of that power isn't literally wielded by them. It is by the people under them who the directives have to actually be put into motion by other people. The president's just sort of making a decision, and then someone has to actually do it. And whenever in the first term you had a lot of people be like, yeah, sure, Trump, and not do it, it prevented some of the damage that could have been done. This time, that's not really present. In almost all the big positions, and even down in smaller positions, it's Trump loyalists staffed all over the place. People who will not say no to Trump. And that means that he's unleashed, and we're seeing the results of that. And what does that mean come the end of his term? I don't know, but it's a scary thought. And then just one other clip of Mehdi, not from this debate.
Invade Iran, MAGA supports it. If Trump says we must not invade Iran, MAGA supports it. If tomorrow Trump says tariffs are bad, MAGA supports it. Tariffs are good, MAGA supports it. This is a cult. And when Trump says, I decide what MAGA is, that's one of the rare moments in the day when he's not lying. It's true. Donald Trump decides what MAGA is. There's no consistent philosophy.
It's a funny pronunciation of MAGA.
This is a cult. And when Trump says, I decide what MAGA is, that's one of the rare moments in the day when he's not lying. It's true. Donald Trump decides what MAGA is. There's no consistent philosophy. Don't be fooled. At the last election, the Republican Party didn't even put out a plank. They didn't put out a policy platform.
That was crazy. I don't know if y'all remember that, but every election, the presidents or the each party, the RNC and the DNC, put out a party platform for the election. And in Trump's last election, they didn't even put out a party platform. It was either his 2020 or his 2024 or both. They just said, we support whatever Trump's doing, because he can't formulate a coherent enough policy agenda, and he moves all over the place that they don't want to put down on a piece of paper what it is that he stands for and what his ideology is, because it's just it depended on his whims. And then while yes, Trump has lost a ton of support of the people who still support him, which is like 30% of the country, it is that cult-like thinking. If Trump had come out and said, neocons want me to invade Iran and I will not do it, you would have every single supporter of Trump saying he is so brave, he's keeping us from war with Iran. Whenever he says, actually, we're going for it after campaigning against foreign wars, still the MAGA base is with him. There's fracturing, but the remaining 30% is like totally willing to bend themselves into that pretzel. I agree with Mehdi. I think if Trump came out and was like, tariffs are so destructive, all of his followers would be like, yes, they're terrible. And then It's completely lacking of critical thinking. And then you still have some congressmen like Wesley Hunt here saying garbage like this.
These people, now that they know what they can do, they are going to go for the heart. They're going to stab a dagger in our hearts if we don't follow the lead of the president. And the one thing that I heard in his voice when I was talking to him was this: it's serious. It's our dire straits. And again, the fact that we have President Trump back is the only reason why we still have a nation to continue to be proud of to this day. I can't imagine the disaster this country would.
What's up, guys? Benny.
The president, he's saying the fact that Trump is the president right now is the only reason, he says, is the only reason we have a nation to continue being proud of. He's defining his entire patriotism based off of who the president is, which is literally not patriotism at all. So while it does feel like the cult, as we had previously perceived it, doesn't have the juice that it previously did, just know that's actually the incorrect analysis. There is a cult that started with Trump in 2016, okay? And for the most part, those people are there literally up to and including Trump asking them to drink poison Kool-Aid, okay? Like all the way until the end. The people it feels like that are falling off are what made his coalition winnable. Okay, so you got the cult portion, which like literally nothing can make them not support Trump. And that's what Mehdi was speaking to. And I guess Michael Knowles is a part of that. And then you have the outer edge that gave him enough support, because the cult's not 50% of the country, enough support to get over the finish line. And those people are falling off, and that's why Trump's popularity is plummeting. But there's still a sizable portion of the country, which is disturbing, that does not see what we're seeing. They don't see that things are disastrous. They have some other reason to believe that Trump still has a master plan. A final plan. A final solution, one might say. No. All right. Okay. Let's get into this one. Thank you all so much for joining. As a reminder, before we get to our next segment, we have a little thing we call membership. If you become a member while we're still live, I will thank you if I see it. And the way that you become a member, as you're seeing there on screen, is clicking the join button on YouTube, and then you get a daily bonus show, which is pretty fantastic. And then podcast listeners, if you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, drop a rating and a review. That is greatly appreciated. All right, this one's going to get me really upset. We've covered so much because I find it to be embodying let me start that segment over just so we can get a nice crisp. One of the things that is an embodiment of the destruction of the First Amendment by the Trump administration is the way that he realizes he has an enemy in a media outlet, and then he brings whatever force, whatever legal abuse, whatever, to attack that outlet. He's doing it especially severely in this second term. CBS. What was one of the big ways they tried to attack CBS? He pretended like they edited in an incorrect way a Kamala Harris 60 Minutes interview during the campaign. Trump then brings this ridiculous lawsuit, forces them into a settlement through government pressure, and kind of gets them to pay him off of harming them with the government. And all of that started. The reason he did it was not because of the editing in the 60 Minutes Kamala Harris interview. That was just a random justification he could find, even though it wasn't a good justification, to go after CBS. What he really wanted was to punish them until they made the type of changes that they've now made to make it a more friendly network to him. So he got what he wanted. But at the center of that saga was him claiming that it was an outrage, illegal, deceptive for 60 Minutes to do what they do in every single interview, which is edit it to make it more listener friendly, to make it move quickly, to cut out empty space, etc. And then he does 60 Minutes interviews. And you would think for someone who brought up this much of a fuss, a legal battle over them editing interviews, he would not want his edited. But instead, he gets 60 Minutes to edit his interviews, or at least he's great with them editing it to remove some of the bad moments for him. So that comes from this interview, and I've been meaning to talk about this for a while. This is what was broadcast, and then I'll break down for you what was removed.
The so-called manifesto is a stunning thing to read, Mr. President.
he appears to reference a motive in it. He writes this, quote, administration officials, they are targets. And he also wrote this, I am no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I was waiting for you to read that because I knew you would, because you're horrible people, horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
Do you think he was referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a...
Still iconic.
I'm not a pedophile.
Oh, you think he was referring to you as a rapist and a pedophile? Oh, I hadn't thought about that he was referring to you being a rapist. You, rapist. You, Trump, rapist. Trump, rapist. I didn't realize that was the association he was making. Interesting.
Do you think he was referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person. I got associated with all stuff that has nothing to do with me. I was totally exonerated. Your friends on the other side of the plate are the ones that were involved with, let's say, Epstein or other things. But I said to myself, I'll do this interview and they'll probably, I read the manifesto, he's a sick person, but you should be ashamed of yourself reading that because I'm not any of those things.
Mr. President,
and I
these
was
are
never,
the gunman's words.
Excuse me. You shouldn't be reading that on 60 Minutes. You're a disgrace. But go ahead, let's finish.
So that's the interview that we're talking about. And the hypocrisy to say that CBS should pay him, what was it, $16 million or whatever, because they edited a Kamala Harris answer like literally in the most normal way ever, which was she made a point. It took her a while to make a point, so she reiterated the point a little bit more concisely. So they removed the part where she wandered to the point and kept the part where she concisely makes her point about the same topic. That's like what you edit interviews for, so the listener doesn't have to sit there and listen through. For example, Trump rambling incoherently and angrily for super long portions of the interview, but he's totally fine when they do it to help his interview seem more coherent. And I think the most shocking example of that was the last 60 Minutes interview. I'm going to show you that in a second. But first, this is about the one that I just played for you. CBS News' 60, or the headline from The New Republic is Deranged Trump Rants edited out of 60 Minutes interview after the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting. CBS News' 60 Minutes cut out large portions of his interview with President Trump in which he rambled about his ballroom, how hot his Secret Service agents are, and how the No Kings protests are just like the Ku Klux Klan. An analysis by Decoding Fox News revealed that many portions of the interview, which took place Sunday following the shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, simply never made it to air. Now, they have the examples. It's just kind of him aimlessly rambling about all sorts of different topics, as you can imagine. And I'm not a king. If I were a king, I wouldn't be sitting here dealing with you, which is such a weird thing. And it goes on and on. And it's just, it's a lot of words. It's a lot of words. It's going to make him look better if you chop out some of the meat and keep the concise, I'm not a pedophile. That's better, I guess, for him. But it's not the only time they did that. After his lawsuit, the gall to sue an outlet and then have a meltdown, and they cut it out for you. That's what his last 60 Minutes interview was. And I'm going to flash back to me covering this because it was wild, where he starts saying, I don't want this. I could walk out of this interview. And they chopped that out completely of not just the broadcasted version, but of the unedited raw footage that was published on YouTube. Normally they do the quick for TV cut, and then they give you the raw footage of the full interview on YouTube. In Kamala's example, that's the full footage was aired on YouTube, and the part A of the answer was aired on one of the other shows. I think it was on the 60 Minutes show, but then they maybe cut it for the morning CBS preview or something like that. So all of it was on video. They literally removed from any video this part of Trump's last 60 Minutes interview.
You're going to have number one, and you're not going to have a number two. And right now, we're number one by a long shot. I want to keep it that way. The same way.
So what I'm doing in this flashback is going through the transcript, because that was the only place we could find what they cut out, which was in the transcript. And that's what you're seeing here. And they're talking about the corruption of Trump pardoning the Binance founder after Binance funneled a bunch of money to Trump's firm. Corruption, disgusting. And that's where he gets really fed up, and they cut out the worst part of his meltdown.
We're number one with AI. We're number one with crypto. And I want to keep it that way.
I know my time is limited with you, so I want to be respectful of you, Mr. President.
And then it moves on. So that's in even the extended version here on YouTube, President Donald Trump's extended 60 Minutes interview. It obviously wasn't put in the broadcast. It wasn't even put in the extended.
The issue of political violence, I want to get...
And she moves on to political violence. But what happened in the actual transcript is this. He finishes by saying, and I want to keep it that way, which you heard. And then instead of cutting to the political violence question, she says, so not concerned about the appearance of corruption with this? And he says, I can't say because I can't say I'm not concerned. I'd rather not have you ask that question, but I let you ask it. You just came to me and you said, can I ask another question? And I said, yeah, this is the question. Nora says, and you answered. And Trump says, I don't mind, but I let you do it. I could have walked away. I didn't have to answer this question. I'm proud to answer the question. You know why? We've taken crypto. Nora says, but just generally speak, and he said, excuse me, we're number one in crypto in the whole world. Other people want to be. They're fighting like hell, but we're... And then goes on to a whole thing. So, number one, him referencing, I could have walked out, and kind of... I'm glad she had that follow-up. Why it wasn't in the interview, either versions, I don't know. Where it was described by some as, do I have that? Is this the right headline? There was a particular headline of Trump just giving a stuttery, glitchy response in that. I can't say because I can't say. I'm not concerned. I don't know. I'd rather not have you ask the question. Telling her, don't ask that question. I'd rather not have you ask that question, but I let you ask. I could have walked out. But we don't have the video of it. But that's wild to be like, hey, you didn't answer my question. You just went on a whole ramble about crypto. No, but what about your crypto venture that foreign entities and governments are funneling money through, that people are cozying up to you with, and then boom, they get a pardon. They make you billions. Then you relieve restrictions on chips going to UAE. How on earth largest purchasers of your meme coin get to go to dinner with you? How on earth is that not corruption? And after his whole ramble, he then just resorts to, don't ask me that question. And that wasn't anywhere. So that was the last time. That's actually an edit that changes the meaning of an answer. Because him snapping and saying, why would you ask me that question about corruption, seems like he's feeling guilty, no, Jaden? Seems a little guilty to be like, why would you ask such a thing? Sir, did you murder that man? Why would you ask me such a question? I came in here voluntarily and sat down for this interview with you, and now you're asking me a question like that. You should be ashamed of yourself. That feels guilty. That feels very guilty. And they cut that out after he got them in trouble, abused them enough with the government, threatened them enough, and then sued them to force them into paying him money to get him off their back over an edited Kamala Harris interview that was not edited at all in any incorrect way. It was perfectly reasonably edited. And then years later, well, I forget when all this saga happened, the 2024 campaign. So yeah, are we in a couple of years now? I don't know. A year plus later, he's benefiting from cuts. And the fact that he said, I kind of took issue with the question at all, and then they removed it even from the extended cut. And then Levitt, do you remember this reporting? She said, she was on tape saying about an interview, like, if you cut this in a way that we don't want, you're going to have hell to pay, or we're going to sue your ass off. That was the call. We're going to sue your ass off. And so now he's getting these media outlets, it appears, to just do what he wants. And it's disturbing. This is what we warned of. This is why it was a big deal. When I would go to right-wingers, be like, no, this is like him attacking the First Amendment. This is him trying to get them all to bend the knee, and anyone who's not MAGA-friendly enough gets punished. Like, this will have bad results. It's real. Also real is this photo, okay, from that, for the most recent 60 Minutes interview. For some reason, Jaden put up this photo on my screen. I don't know why. What? There's that. But this is causing a lot of speculation. This is a real photo of Trump sitting for his 60 Minutes interview. I have never seen a human butt shaped like this. No, really, focus, please. People are like, oh, maybe he's wearing a diaper. That doesn't even explain it, okay? And I don't have any evidence that he's wearing an adult diaper. But What is going on? Someone explain to me. His abdomen goes down, and then there's a right angle. Then there's a right angle, and then another right angle. It's like a square. It looks like he's sitting on a wooden box, but it's his butt. How is a body shaped like that? So this caused segments like this from many people, including friend of the show, David Pakman.
Rumors that Donald Trump is wearing a diaper have gone absolutely viral. Donald Trump recently sat down with 60 Minutes, and aside from his really strange sitting stance, there was some kind of unusual bulge right above his waistline. And listen, when you look more closely, I have to admit, this does look exactly like what my 9-month-old looks like when she sits with the diaper. Now, I am not bringing this up to be funny. There have been claims about Donald Trump's supposed fecal incontinence for years. This is a medical condition. It's not a joke. It's not funny.
It's funny to me, but it is funny to me. I have to be frank, but I agree with the general point. I don't think he's pooing himself, but interesting to ponder.
What is serious here is that there is simply zero medical transparency about.
Right. And I think the story of Trump's health is just things are bulging and rotting. Okay. That's the era that he's in. Obviously we saw his hand and his neck kind of having that rot-ish feeling. And then his ankles and his rear end are bulging. There's a lot of bulge going on in places that you wouldn't expect it. That shape doesn't make sense to my brain. Maybe he got like a BBL or something. Can you imagine? So there's that. That's the last little element of the 60 Minutes interview that I need to play for you, or need to talk about with you. Okay, Lauren Collins, thank you so much for becoming a member by clicking the join button. It is so greatly appreciated. Soroke said, can we sue 60 Minutes for airing this interview? I'm sick and tired of hearing him, honestly. Emotional trauma, right? There's going to be a beautiful day one day when we don't hear from him. And I mean, because he's out of politics and he just goes to Mar-a-Lago. I need to be very specific. Otherwise, Kash Patel's going to arrest me for saying 8647. Haha, David said, Kevlar Pampers. Do you want to just absolutely cringe? You ready? Let's get into this. All right. I want you to tell me who did it better. I saw some accounts putting together that comparison. Here is JD Vance literally getting booed because he gets so flustered on stage during an event. And then we're going to compare that to Russell Brand trying to find a Bible verse.
I see that when I see Iowa farmers who need to get that E15 to market. What is Zach, you're going to have to help me out with her name here. I lost my page here. Okay. All right. Okay, there we go. Sarah Trone Garriott. There he is. I'm on the wrong page here. So while Zach...
Brutal. Tomato. You suck.
What the hell happened to JD?
So while Zach is fighting to make sure, for the benefit of Iowa, but frankly for the benefit of the whole country...
That's brutal. I lost my page. Zach, where's my page? How would Zach know? If you flip to the wrong page, how can Zach help you? He doesn't know what page you're on. So, was that more secondhand embarrassing, or was this? Newly found Jesus guru and, just by happenstance, current participant in his own criminal rape trial, Russell Brand, who went, I was charged with rape, I also found Jesus simultaneously. It's interesting how that happens so frequently. What is it about people who might be going to or currently are sitting in jail that find Jesus? You know, I'd like to call to the stand a character witness for how great of a man I am. Jesus Christ, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, he's not there. I'll just go ahead and speak for him. Hey, Russell looks kind of like he would play Jesus in some sort of film, so maybe that's what he's going for. Anywho, I guess he went into court and was like, so you say I'm a rapist, Well, in 2 Corinthians, you have, and then read some verse. So Piers was like, hey, you brought the Bible into court at your rape trial. Like, what was the verse that called out to you in that moment? Because it seemed like one did.
Can I go back to asking a question about your Bible?
Yes, if you want to.
Thank you. Was that the one you took into court?
To be clear, if you missed my point, let me just make this point very clear. Russell Brand, MAGA influencer. He was an actor. That slowed down a little bit, so then he became a MAGA influencer. Often the pipeline for people as their careers slow down. Roseanne Barr, right? That's her name. And who's the Jillian Michaels? She's now a MAGA influencer. Because if you were in Hollywood and then you say, I'm MAGA, then MAGA gets really excited because they feel very left out of the cool kids club in Hollywood. Anyways, so my point was not that to disparage Jesus, but that often people, when they're charged with crimes, let me just explain it to you, they try to make themselves seem less guilty by going, I all of a sudden found the Lord. And they try to play a character of someone who all of a sudden is super, has these strong values and is called by Jesus. That was my point, was it seems a performance for the sake of his trial.
Can I go back to asking a question about your Bible?
Yes, if you want to.
Thank you. Was that the one you took into court?
You're the very one.
Okay. What was your thinking of taking it into court? And what you were seeing, looking at some passages, what were the relevant passages for you?
All right. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. I didn't know that, did I?
A little bit. It was this from Isaiah. You're right. Bear did say, be chilled. Sometimes I lose the chill, man.
Zach, where's my page? Somewhere in Isaiah.
It's this.
Isaiah, where are you?
They don't like that, do they, in the old gallery? But remember, you just said it's a hired spot. This is from Isaiah. Excuse me. Man, did I mark it before?
I have such a love-hate relationship with Piers. He makes me so angry. Obviously, I've debated him a lot of times. But there's something that's cute as a button about this face he's making. There's just something that's absolutely adorable.
It says here.
This is from Isaiah.
The verse that I was looking at that day was not this. I can't actually find the verse that I had that day, but this is good enough. This is from Isaiah 12.
Okay, we know it's in Isaiah. I know it's from Isaiah. Is that the same or different book as Isaiah? Is that the same or different? No, that's fine. That's actually a sweet pronunciation. But people go, I've read the Bible a lot and I sometimes struggle to find things. Of course. That's not why it was funny. It's funny because I don't actually think he remembers what the verse said. That's what's funny, is if he was so compelled that he's sitting in court and he's performatively reading his Bible and he goes, oh my gosh, this just hit me in court. Then if there was something so compelling, you could just go, oh yeah, I'm not going to be able to find the verse. That's understandable, finding a particular verse in a Bible that's like too many pages. Come on, Jesus. Can we get the Spark Notes version? Seriously, can I get the... We did, actually. Do you want to know what the summary was? What are the 2 most important commandments? Jesus says, love God, something, and love your neighbor. That's a summary, baby. Anywho, I understand not being able to find a verse, but if he actually had been so struck by it, he could just go, well, obviously I'm not going to be able to find it right here, but the essence of it was that Jesus said to one of his disciples named Russ that you may use my name to get out of jail. And I just thought that was such a compelling scripture. No, but he could give a summary, you know? And then meanwhile, Ted Turner, the person who started CNN, passed away. And so we do wish his family the absolute best and send our love. And the commander-in-chief, as always, finds a way to either mock or, in this case, make people's deaths about himself. Ted Turner, he writes, one of the greats of all time, just died. He founded CNN, sold it, and was personally devastated by the deal because the new ownership took CNN, his baby, and destroyed it. It became woke. He's eulogizing someone by railing against woke and everything that he is not all about. Maybe the new buyer's wonderful people will be able to bring it back to its former credibility and glory. Regardless, however, one of the greats of broadcast history and a friend of mine, whenever I needed him, he was there, always willing to fight for a good cause. So, railing against woke and then indicating that his buddy, Ellison, right, who's buying CNN, will change it to make it more to Trump's liking. Freaky, authoritarian world or country type stuff. Moving on to this, there's a problem in the Trump administration where they seem to believe that it's more important to find the leakers who leak embarrassing information about them as opposed to just addressing the problems that were so concerning in the leaks. And what cracks me up is people like Kash Patel will come out, and whenever there's an embarrassing story like the Atlantic piece about his excessive drinking and them having to get like a SWAT protocol request to break down his door to get him because he was not responding to their attempts to get him for something important, and a bunch of details about how bad of a leader he is. He comes out and goes, this is all lies. The fake news mafia, he says, is coming after me. I am the thing standing in between them and you. His eyes! So he denies it, right? Pete Heck said this similar thing. These leaks are just, they're made up. The press made it up. And then they launch investigations into who leaked it. Wait. How is it being made up by the press and you know someone leaked information about you? Both can't be true. Either no one leaked anything because it's not a real story and the press made it up and it's the fake news mafia's fault, or someone leaked it because, and you're going after them because they actually leaked real information. If they're just, I guess the third option would be they leaked fake information, but then how would you be able to demonstrate they leaked non-existent? What would be the punishment for just telling media fantasies? The FBI has launched a criminal investigation into information that was allegedly leaked to a reporter for The Atlantic, who wrote the bombshell expose accusing FBI Director Kash Patel of excessive drinking that was compromising his ability to do his job. What's the crime there? Is it classified that he's drunk at the Pink Pony Club? Wait, that's not it. What was it? The Pony Club? No, wait. I'm really stuck on Chapel Roan right now. Pink Pony Club. Kash is like, so this is classified. Pink Pony Club. What was it? The Pony Club? The Pink Club? The Patel Club? Patel's Pony Club? Poodle Room. That's what it was. Poodle Room. Last month, Sarah Fitzpatrick at The Atlantic published this article. He's MIA. He's drinking. Episodes of excessive inebriation and unexplained absences. And now they are going after the leakers. Criminal investigation. Again, what is the crime? Maybe there's rules in the FBI against leaking, but it's going to be really hard to trace down who told the media that you're drunk all the time. Because if that's true, which it is, then everyone's seen it. So it's not like they leaked plans for the FBI to raid El Chapo's compound, right? And you're like, but only 5 high-level people knew about that plan, so it had to be one of them. It's just that you're stumbling around the headquarters. So I think a lot of people could have leaked that. It's going to be hard to trace it down. And I should take you back to him going, this is all the fake news mafia. So then why would they need a leak? How would there be a real leaker if this was made up by the fake news? Those things don't square.
Can you say definitively that you have not been intoxicated or absent during your tenure as FBI director?
I can say unequivocally that I never listen to the fake news mafia. And as when they get louder, it just means I'm doing my job.
And when they get louder, it just sounds and I'm doing job. Gosh, this can't be real. Why is this our FBI director? What I can say is that I don't believe the fake news mafia. It sounds so much like a kid. Like a kid in a theater. I just went and saw this elementary school for my cousin musical, sort of, and the kids get up and read lines, and it was like the seasons change as the flowers bloom, or whatever. Like the play was about the changing of the seasons, and some of the kids would get up there and say their part confidently, and some of them would be like, and then and so spring is for new life, and so then life. That's Kash Patel. Watch this.
During your tenure as FBI director?
I can say unequivocally that I never listen to the fake news mafia. And as when they get louder, it just means I'm doing my job. This FBI director has been on the job twice as many days as every director before me. What that
This FBI director? Why are you talking about yourself? This FBI director has been here every day. All right. Nah, not really. And then you have this part too.
You in court.
Explain the computer login issue.
I love this part. So in the Atlantic piece, he's so paranoid about being fired, which tells you something about how good he thinks he's doing at the job. He's freaking out constantly that he's going to be fired. And so at one point he gets logged out of his computer, and there was just a tech issue, but he thought it's because he got fired and they removed his access to his computer. And before checking with the White House, he just started running around telling everyone, they fired me, they fired me. So everyone's like, who's the FBI director now? They fired me. And then some tech guy walks in and is like, you forgot the exclamation mark in your password. And it's like the Michael Scott, do you know your password? And Kash Patel's like, they have these things so techno locked down now. I don't know how to get in. He's like, the sticky note on your computer says it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Kash Patel's a big boy. And then he realized he wasn't fired and he just got logged out of his computer. So he's asked about that.
You in court.
Explain the computer login issue. Just explain the computer login issue. You were not able to log into your lawsuit contends that you were not able to log into the system. What did you think after you were unable to log into the system?
Let's have a survey. How many of you people believe that's true? Hang on.
Did you communicate?
You asked the question. Let me answer it.
No, let me.
No.
Did you communicate with anyone that you thought you were fired after you were unable to log into
the problem with you and your report? Don't cut me off. You asked the question.
Straightforward question.
The problem with you and your baseless reporting is that is an absolute lie. It was never said. It never happened. And I will serve in this administration as long as the president and the attorney general want me to do so. And every time you guys report false lies, every time you guys raise baseless questions, when we are here to talk about the Southern Poverty Law Center's $3 million decade-long scheme to fraudulently fleece Americans, you are off topic.
By the way, that Southern Poverty Law Center, it's not something I've looked into a ton because I've just heard right-wingers screaming about it, and I'm waiting to see how that plays out before doing a deep dive. But essentially, that's like a left-wing group, and they track extremists, and they try to take down extremist organizations, the Southern Poverty Law Center. And what you'll hear from right-wing sources is that what the FBI and the DOJ exposed was that the SPLC was actually funding the right-wing extremist organizations. So what the takeaway is from Patel and all the, I just want you to know about this since it keeps getting referenced. What Patel and others are referencing, you'll hear Benny Johnson and Trump, and everyone just started saying what has been exposed is that all the examples the media has pointed to of right-wing extremism, those were actually just astroturfed, and the SPLC had actually created those. They were funding the white supremacists. They were funding the Charlottesville, etc. That was all actually left-wing op to make right-wingers look extreme. What I saw in just preliminarily thumbing through the info about this, but I'll wait for more to come out again to give a bigger breakdown, is that there might be some question marks about did they use correct tactics, but what they were doing was like paying people inside extremist organizations to give them information. They had informants within these organizations, which if their goal is to embed themselves and then dismantle extremist organizations, it makes sense that money would funnel from them to members of those organizations if they're using them as informants, for example. So we do not know that this was some op to AstroTurf right-wing extremism. Likely not that at all. And instead was maybe they used kind of sus tactics to try to get inside and expose these organizations that led to money going to people maybe you didn't want to go to pay them for information. But it definitely wasn't like they are the reason for right-wing extremism, which is what you'll hear if you watch MAGA media. What was Kash Patel saying?
Simple, straightforward question. If you talk to anybody about whether you thought
the simple answer to your question is you are lying, and every time you do so, I've answered your question. It's simply as follows. I was never locked out of my systems. Anybody who says
your lawsuit says the opposite. Your lawsuit contains
anyone that says the opposite is lying. Thank you.
The lawsuit that you filed says that.
Look, man, stop. You're being extraordinarily rude, and I know maybe that.
Why are they both doing this with their hands? Stop. It's funny, people who aren't used to confrontational interactions like that, sort of debate bro moments, because you can see they pick up on some of the mannerisms of people who debate, and Cash was like, do not cut me off. I'm going to finish my point, and the guy keeps talking, and the Cash just goes quiet and lets him talk, lets him trample over him. I'm doing my fingers like this, so you know I'm serious. And then is he saying in the lawsuit they concede that he got locked out of the computer, but then things were wrong? In Kash Patel's lawsuit? And the Kash Patel's like, well, my answer is that is a false lie. So he did. That definitely happened. And now they're trying to find who leaked it. Simultaneously, this was manufactured by that reporter, and someone leaked it to him. Interesting. All I'm saying is that it's interesting. We don't know, but we know. Yesterday, we talked about this press conference with Trump. He brought in kids for like the fitness test, getting America fit, presidential fitness test. Cool. Okay, whatever. And this clip went really viral.
Almost like, I'm just
This is just not something I ever wanted to never wanted to see this face on Trump. But that's not what I want to talk about. We already talked about that. What I want to talk about, put it back up. Put it back up as long as possible. What I wanted to talk about was a moment that I missed from this press conference yesterday. That is wild. Trump just has an inability. We did a segment about this, comparing Obama and Mamdani interacting with kids versus Trump. He has an inability to just normally interact, which demonstrates he was never a father. Yes, technically, kids were born because of his sperm, but he was never a father. And there's a difference. And you can tell because he does not know how to interact with young people, like in a normal way. He rants to them about the auto pin and about how Obama, have you ever heard Obama? Barack Hussein Obama, do you know who he is? He said the kids didn't know what he was talking about. Okay, so you can take that down now. The moment that I missed was this, okay? Was this. Where you'll see some of what we watched, and then he says something to a little girl who says she wants to play volleyball.
What do you play?
I do dance, but I also do volleyball.
Oh, nice. Hey, nice and tall to be a volleyball player. Amazing. What about you? Look at this guy, he's a big guy.
Me, I'm doing football right now, and next year I'm going to be trying to do powerlifting.
Oh, whoa.
Yes,
wow.
All right, let's go.
Whoa.
That's awesome.
And you'll never compete against women in powerlifting.
That's right.
Did you see that they had a man powerlifter and he decided to go the opposite direction? He took a record, stood for 18 years. He beat it by 119 pounds. Okay? They put the little quarter of an ounce. To 18 years it stood. This guy came, he was a failed powerlifter, but he went on the other side and he decided that he wanted to go into women's sports, and he broke the record by 118 pounds. Think that's fair? Yeah. So I don't think we'll have to worry about you.
Yes, sir.
You're going to do good. Are you a strong person?
Yes, sir.
Good. You think you can take me in a fight? I think you could. Hey, that would be embarrassing. How about you? What sport do you play?
I play volleyball, and in the summer I'm trying to get into soccer.
Wow. And with your height, do you smash the ball in the volleyball?
No.
Do you get up high? Can you jump high?
Not very.
Soccer might be better. I don't want to be. I'm just looking. I think she'd be a great soccer player. That's good. Good luck. Okay. What about you?
Hockey and
So such a bizarre exchange. So first, none of them seem excited about this. None of the kids seem that excited. The one guy's like, yeah, sure. What are you talking about? There was one guy, 118 pounds. It was 18 years for this black girl. And he said, wow. He went, ah. And I said, what? And I said, boom. And I said, wow, that's men and women's sports. And the kid's like, okay. And then he goes to the girl. He's like, what do you want to play? Volleyball and then soccer. And Trump's like, oh, you don't look tall enough for volleyball. Maybe soccer is your sport. Oh, no. I remember growing up sometimes, like, I grew and then I wasn't getting tall enough. And occasionally someone would go, maybe basketball's not your sport, And it's heartbreaking. But imagine the president saying, I don't know if volleyball is your sport. I'm looking at you and you look a little too short for that. Well, it's a child. So yes, she's going to be short. Wow. So there's that. And then meanwhile, Trump did an interview with Hugh Hewitt, right? And you have him saying this. What? Why did you make that face, Cole? All right, Hugh Hewitt, ladies and gentlemen.
I will. I brought him up, and there's a lot of there's a little bitterness, I would say, with him and Jimmy Lai. He was Hong Kong was not as easy, but I will be bringing.
I wish the Pope would. I want the Pope to talk about Jimmy Lai, and I want you to bring him home. That would be a good deal.
Well, the Pope would rather talk about the fact that it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon, and I don't think that's very good. I think he's endangering a lot of Catholics and a lot of people, but I guess...
Nice Catholics you have over there, Pope Leo. How's the health of your Catholics, huh? Can you stop attacking the Pope, please? Can you stop? The Pope's not even saying... He literally, his last statement was like, I'm not trying to get into politics. And they're like, he's gotten so political.
I guess if it's up to the Pope, he thinks it's just fine for Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
He's from Chicago. He's got to learn a few things. He's from Chicago. Let me ask you about...
All right, Hugh. I say this with love and admiration, but I've never seen someone who visually bores me more than Hugh Hewitt. Like, I'm feeling physical boredom just by looking at him. Not listening, just looking at him, I'm bored. Is that weird? I've never had that with someone before. The Pope. Trump's still beefing with the Pope. And then maybe it's not the Pope wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon, but he recognizes they don't, and they weren't close to having one that could be delivered in any threatening way. And that it's pretty easy, Pope or not Pope, to acknowledge how disastrous all of this has been. It even seems Trump doesn't know what he wants in any given moment. We get, you know how sometimes people over a meal, whenever you don't really have much to talk about, keep talking about the weather, and they're like, oh my gosh, awesome weather. If you don't like it, wait 10 minutes. And you hear it for the 100th time and you're like, I don't want to be around you anymore. Because if all you have to talk about is how weather changes, it's like, what are these weather people even doing? They said it was going to be rainy today, but it's sunny. One time they canceled school for snow and then it was 70 degrees. It's just like, that bores me as much as Hugh Hewitt. But the weather Trump changes as much as the weather with his Iran policy. And so that was relevant to this point. I think you're now finding out where he is either saying we're about to have a deal and like they've essentially agreed to everything, or we might start the war back up. Now it's been going on. Iran's been striking things and there's been war, but not like full scale strikes. Trump recently posted, if they don't agree, the bombing starts, and indicated that it's very likely they're not going to agree. That is probably going to mean we get launched right back into the war. And then he launched a military operation, just to give you a sense of the coherence or lack thereof of the policy, to guide ships through the Strait of Hormuz. All right, if Iran's not going to let it open, we're going to use our military to guide ships through so they don't get hit, so we can get movement of oil and other things. And then one day later, he halted that because he said, I'll halt it to give Iran a chance to make a deal. He's extended the negotiating period. It really seems like we're not making much progress is the update on Iran. I don't give you every single update that Trump gives because like a lot of it's just market manipulation and nothingness that means nothing. But this is just another example of it. There's always contradictory announcements, and then now we have a new idea, and then that gets halted, and then we're about to have a deal, but we're actually going to start the bombing pretty soon. And it doesn't seem like there's a light very near us at the end of any tunnel. All right, guys, that is the show. Thank you all so much. What a day. Make sure you join us at 6 p.m. Eastern for the bonus show live if you're a member by clicking the join button. Much love. I'll talk to you all next time.